Welcome to the deep dive. Imagine this.
Hmm.
Someone just totally focused, working right through the night,
Okay.
but not in some quiet studio.
Yeah.
No, they're battling this crazy apartment heat like a furnace, right? It's this intense backdrop.
Yeah, that paints a picture. Sort of a feverish focus, maybe.
Exactly. And that intensity, that psychological struggle, it really frames the insights we're going to unpack today.
Right. We're diving into some personal reflections, yeah, but also some really sharp critiques from this creator. They're grappling with huge shifts, work, expertise. It's fundamental stuff.
Sounds pretty raw, unfiltered.
It is.
So our mission here is to pull out the key nuggets from what this person observed,
Yeah.
especially their, let's say, bold projections on AI
Oh, yeah.
and their critiques, which don't spare anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Intellectual elites, a big name in finance. We'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
We want to help you understand not just what they're saying, but what it could actually mean for you, for your world.
Makes sense.
So, okay, setting the stage. Our source creator, they start by detailing this very personal situation. Working all night, no sleep, fighting that extreme heat.
Yeah, you mentioned the furnace apartment.
Right. And it feels like more than just a detail. It emphasizes the psychological pressure, the intense, maybe even frustrated focus behind these thoughts. Like clarity forged in fire, almost.
That intense pressure, it definitely gives a unique lens, doesn't it?
I think so.
And the insights themselves, they really kick off with AI. But first, it's important to get where we are now with AI agents.
Okay, the current state.
Exactly. The source points out that right now they're managing maybe, 30 to 50 minutes of actual useful autonomous work. Then they hit errors.
Just 30 to 50 minutes.
Yeah. And apparently something like half the prompts you give these systems just fail.
Huh. Okay, so still quite limited in practice then.
For now, yes. But
Yeah.
that's the baseline. Where it gets really interesting, or maybe alarming, is the source's projection for the future, the growth curve.
Okay, this sounds like the core of it, this timeline.
It really is. So 2025, the projection is still around that 30 minutes of useful autonomy.
Right.
But then it ramps up fast. 3 hours in 2026.
40 hours? Okay.
In 2027, we're looking at 20 hours. Think about that enough for multi-day tasks without someone constantly watching over it.
Wow. Okay, that's a significant jump in just 2 years.
And that keeps going. 2028, 176 hours. That's like a month of continuous work.
A month's worth of work.
Then 2029, roughly a full work year equivalent of output from one AI.
A whole year's work. And then there's that comparison that really stands out. 2030.
Yeah, this was memorable. The intellectual output equivalent of Einstein's week.
Einstein's week. That's
Yeah.
hard to even process.
It really is. And they push it even further out. To 2035, the source estimates, hundreds of billions of hours of intellectual output. A scale that's just beyond us, really.
It's almost like, coming back to that context, the heat, the lack of sleep, maybe it's stripped away some normal assumptions, let them see this exponential curve more clearly.
Could be. Like a clarity born from that crucible, as you put it, free from maybe conventional thinking.
So, okay, if these projections are even close to right, what does the source creator think this means? The implications for intellectual work, for, us, how does it change what value even is?
Well, first, they argue that intellectual work, the stuff we value highly now, thinking, analyzing it, becomes incredibly cheap, abundant, basically commoditized.
But your knowledge isn't the key differentiator anymore.
Potentially not just the knowledge itself. The insight here, for you listening, is that your value might shift. It's less about what you know and more about how uniquely you can apply it, especially in the physical world.
Okay, application becomes key.
Right. Or maybe fostering those, human things, creativity, empathy that AI can't just churn out. It kind of redefines what being smart means.
That's a massive shift. So what about institutions like universities, places built on knowledge creation?
Exactly. The source predicts that traditional institutions, universities, established intellectual jobs, they might become obsolete.
Obsolete. Because AI can just generate the ideas, the research, the papers instantly.
Pretty much. And far beyond human scale. Raises a big question, right? If knowledge creation is automated, what's the new frontier for human contribution? What do these institutions do?
And if AI handles the thinking part, the cognitive load, then the bottlenecks, the things slowing us down, they change. completely.
Totally. It stops being about thinking or problem-solving speed. It becomes about the physical world,
Right.
like factories, labs, getting clinical trials done, navigating regulations. Those become the real choke
Real
points.
world stuff.
Yeah, and the expectation is AI will actually help compress those timelines too. Software development, yes, but also physical prototyping, design, manufacturing, speeding everything up.
Which explains why the source predicts governments will increasingly see this as like an AI war they have to win.
It follows, doesn't it, if that's where the power is
Yeah.
shifting. And speaking of traditional expertise being potentially commoditized,
Yeah.
our source creator has some, let's say, sharp words for intellectual elites.
Ah, right. They don't hold back here, do they? I remember reading they framed academics, intellectuals as parasites.
That's the term used, yes.
Yeah.
Relying on state payrolls, producing little of, quote, real-world value. It's definitely a provocative take, presented very forcefully from the source's viewpoint. We're just relaying your perspective here.
Understood. And the prediction tied to that.
Equally sharp.
Okay.
Basically, their relevance just vanishes. Once AI can outperform them at generating ideas, research, papers instantly, poof.
It's a stark challenge to how we usually value that kind of intellectual work. Suggesting output alone might not cut it in an AI future.
Exactly. Their value proposition might just evaporate, according to this source.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit. The source then turns that critical eye towards the financial world. Specifically, a trader named Willy Woo.
Right. Willy Woo, known in crypto circles, particularly for on-chain metrics.
On-chain, so data directly from the blockchain, right? Like
Right.
in VT.
Yeah, network value to transactions, trying to value a network based on its transaction volume relative to its market cap.
Yeah.
And other things like supply shock indicators.
But our source creator isn't buying it.
Far from it. They level some pretty specific criticisms, saying Woo's indicators, like NVT, supply shock, they're too vague, they lag behind the market, just not practical for actual trading.
Impractical.
And the source notes, interestingly, that Woo apparently sold most of his Bitcoin back in 2025. Their stated goal seems to be exposing what they see as flaws in his whole approach.
Okay, and they dig into that 2020 market crash too, right, with Woo's fund.
Yeah, Adaptive Capital, it shut down after that big crash in March 2020. Now, Woo publicly blamed things like exchange outages, mass liquidations, basically external factors.
Chad's outside his control.
That was the narrative. But the source creator, they call those excuses, flat out.
Excuses. Why?
Their argument is that a disciplined trader, a good trader, doesn't get caught like that. They hedge risk across different exchanges. They use strict risk management. They shouldn't be fully exposed, especially with leverage.
So the source's verdict isn't about the market being crazy.
No. The source says Woo's losses came down to bad risk management. Simple as that. Not external events he couldn't handle. It really puts the focus back on the trader's own discipline, or lack thereof.
That definitely challenges the public story.
It does.
So, okay, let's try to synthesize this.
Yeah.
Pulling together the main conclusions from our source creator here. They seem pretty stark, but there are powerful insights for us, right?
Definitely. First big one, AI. It's on the verge, they argue, of making cognitive work almost worthless, or at least incredibly cheap.
Shifting the focus entirely towards physical world execution, fixing those bottlenecks we talked about.
Right. So for you, the listener, it means rethinking where value really lies in the years ahead, what skills matter.
Okay, that's takeaway one. What's next?
Second, this idea about public personas, especially with traders, like the Willy Woo example, they might be misleading.
Misleading others, or maybe even themselves.
Yeah, the source suggests individuals might even be deceiving themselves, not just followers. The insight here is, question the perceived experts, look beyond the slick presentation, demand actual results, transparent methods. Don't just take their word for it.
Dig deeper than the surface level. Got it. And the third key takeaway.
It boils down to valuing truth-telling, critical thinking, and actual hands-on experience, like real trading experience in the Woo example.
And that stuff is seen as far superior to just hype or, well, excuses.
Exactly. It really underscores this idea that, in a world drowning in information, real insight doesn't come from just theories or talk. It comes from rigorous analysis, real-world testing, facing reality.
Okay. So what we've explored here, it's a really thought-provoking set of reflections. Challenges our basic ideas about work, who's an expert, what value means.
It does. We've seen these, frankly, dizzying projections about AI's pace.
Yeah, potentially devaluing cognitive work completely.
And alongside that, this incredibly sharp critique of established figures, both in academia and finance.
So this deep dive, it really challenges all of us, doesn't it, to think more critically about how we assess information. who we trust.
Uh-huh. And what actually constitutes value in a world that seems like it's changing incredibly fast? It's a call to maybe reevaluate our own skills, our own assumptions.
Absolutely. And as you listening reflect on all this, here's maybe one last thought to chew on.
Okay.
In an age where AI might soon crank out the equivalent of Einstein's week,
Yeah.
of thinking in like moments,
Yeah.
what does that leave for us?
Mm.
What defines real human ingenuity then? And maybe more practically, how will you sort through it all? How will you tell genuine insight from just noise, from the sheer abundance of information in whatever you're pursuing?
Welcome. I have two serious subjects to talk about. One is my expertise, trading, and I will talk about, and the other one is AI automation. Since I'm a hardcore user of AI, and I will talk about that too. Those are the two subjects. But first, I want to go on a small rant before I talk about AI and trading. Tonight, the temperature dropped to 19 degrees, which is quite nice. It drops to 19 degrees after a long extended heat wave. But the temperature in my apartment stayed at 31.5 degrees. Over the last weeks, I also had 32, 31 degrees all the time. A little more than 32, nearly 33 degrees in my apartment. But at least I could tell myself outside it's warm. It's 29 degrees or 28 degrees. I could tell myself that. But now I see that it was 19 degrees this night. I was working the entire night. I didn't sleep at all. And now it's early in the morning. I could tell myself, well, it's hot in your apartment, but it's hot outside also. But now I had a night where it was quite cold and my apartment stayed extremely hot. Because I have an apartment that is warm all year long. Even in winter, I don't need to put any heating on because it stays warm. I left the balcony door as wide open as possible and I opened the other windows, which I cannot open too much because there's stuff behind them. But I opened them as much as possible and still the temperature didn't drop at all. Maybe a half a degree it didn't drop, which is close to nothing. And when you have 31 degrees where I am, with all the humidity that there is, it gets really hard because that's a lot with the humidity we have here. And it's already autumn. As you can see, the leaves are dropping from the trees. Normally, it will be bad weather the next days, a lot of rain. And I think in 1 or 2 weeks, we will be again below 20 degrees. And then in my apartment, it will get a little better. It will drop to 28 degrees, 25 degrees. And then it's not so hard to bear. But it's a psychological thing. As long as I can tell myself it's warm in my apartment and outside also, I don't mind so much. But when I tell myself, well, it's nice and cold outside, it's 19 degrees, and I still have to face an immense heat wave and work all night with 31.05 degrees, then it gets hard psychological because you think it's unjust. You think you don't deserve that when it's cold outside. And you get mad because you can open everything, but the temperature doesn't cloud up. The only thing that I could have done is put my climatization. But if I could put climatization, it makes noise and then my neighbors get angry. This summer I did not because I do more sport. And when you sweat more and you're in better health, then you can endure the extreme heat longer. But it still ends up getting on your nerves, especially when it's nice and cold outside and you have to face extreme hot. But now it's around 21 degrees and it still feels very, very warm. It still feels summer. I could lie naked on the sand next to the sea and I wouldn't feel cold. I could take my clothes off and walk here and it would still be very warm. 21 degrees is still hot. Now let's go into the real subject. AI and automation. I will go through my bullet points, but first let me explain. I have an immense amount of work to do. I worked the entire night and I could only do part of what I was doing. And since I was working the entire night, I didn't sleep. Well, once I'm back, finishing recording this, I will go to sleep and I will sleep today, which doesn't matter because I can sleep whenever I want. But tomorrow morning on Monday, I have an appointment in town and I don't want to cancel that. I will have to put an alarm clock and get up, even if I'm sleeping. So it doesn't matter too much. I will manage. I always do. But the thing is, I have an immense amount of work to do. And my AI agent that I use from ChatGPT gives me 40 prompts a month. And they go by real fast because 50% of the time he messes up. I get an error message or he doesn't do the work. If he messes up 50% of the time, well, then your 40 prompts are actually just 20 prompts. And then he works in the best case scenario, maybe half an hour. Well, it's not much he does. But for 1 week, I have nothing. And I will have to wait until the end of the month, 26, to get 40 more. And that's very little. I need him to do 10 times, 100 times more. But what I will tell you now about AI automation and the exponential growth we have means that it should change very fast. And you say, I don't care about that. Well, you don't care about that. I care about that a lot because I produce a lot. There are plenty of things that I want to do. Plenty of research, plenty of articles that I want to create, plenty of things I want to talk about, plenty of new stuff I want to learn. For me, it matters. I want him to do more than 10 times, more than 100 times, more than 1,000 times the work he does right now for me. And very soon, that should be possible. And that's what we're going to talk about. And Willy Woo, stay for Willy Woo at the end. I talk about Willy Woo, his trading and his situation financially in what he put himself. And that should be very interesting because I'll give you the truth you hear nowhere else, since even he won't tell you. He knows, but he has to keep his public image as a great trader, and he will never tell you the truth. People start lying to themselves. And once they do that, you never know how much they lie. Does he still know that it's a lie? Does he still know that what he puts out is bullshit? Or did he start believing himself in the lies he's spreading? We're gonna talk about all that, and you get my critical thinking, and it will be very interesting because that's my expertise. He cannot tell me any kind of bullshit because I will not fall for it. I'm a trader. I took so many positions during my life that I know exactly what I'm talking about. I was trading at the same time he was trading. I know perfectly well what happened. I was trading the same market. I know exactly what I did expose myself to it. He cannot come and make any crap out and think I will just buy it. I won't fall for the lies. Now, is he lying? He's lying to himself. He has to keep up an image. It's a kind of propaganda. Very few people can say the truth. I try to say the truth to the highest extent possible. But sometimes it's not that I'm lying, but often I face people who can't handle the truth. If I see that they will glitch out, if I see that it's emotionally too hard for them, well, then sometimes I just don't talk about it, or I try to make it nicer because I think they're too immature. They cannot handle it. That's one of the reasons why I wouldn't be 100% honest. Sometimes there's stuff maybe I didn't realize until now. And because of that, I'm still lying to myself. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I would never do what Willy Woo does. Never. Not financially and not professionally. And I would never preach that kind of crap. I will tell you why it's crap and why you should not do that. It's not that I don't find him interesting. He's very pleasant to listen to. You can listen to his talk show, you can listen to his analysis. It's all great. It's entertaining. I'm not against it. I think it's good to listen to traders, poker player, and on. But I have high standards. And I don't like when you put out bullshit just because you want to save your face and just because you want to pretend that things are what they aren't. I don't like that. I don't like when you lie to yourself and when you lie to the rest of the humanity. And most people you can because they have no clue what you are talking about. You can put out any bullshit you want. They will never be able to fact check, and will say, yeah, well, that doesn't hold. It's just an excuse you make up. It's total nonsense. They will never be able to say that. But I am, because I took so many positions and know so much about trading. I do that all day long. I know what I'm talking about, and he cannot come and think that I will believe in the lies. I won't be naive. I will call him out for what he says. I will say, I traded the same markets than you. I know perfectly well what happened. And the excuses you come up with, they don't hold. None of them does. But first, let's talk about AI and automation. That won't be long, and then we talk about Willy Woo, and I explain all that to you. My section will be about agent and automation. That's the first article that I've created, the bullet points for the first article. And it says, AI agents look small now, yet we are standing at the foot of a cliff. It will rise very fast. What the cliff is, measuring AI's real-world automation. And it stands for the human calibrated yardstick. How long can an AI work on real software tasks while still hitting 50% success? It's 50% success of completing at least half the tasks correctly without human help doing the run. When you tell him to do something on your computer and he does it correctly 50% of the time without you having to intervene. Now we are not at that. 50% of the time he fails. That's the measurement we are talking about. It compares agent endurance to familiar human time blocks. We are trying to compare what an agent can do to what a human worker can do. Where are we today? First, to see where we will be in the future, we have to find out where we are today. And today we are about 30-50 minutes of continuous useful autonomy. And that's approximately correct, yes. When it works, when you don't get an error message, 30 to 50 minutes he might work when you don't get an error message. It's a short sprint, but real work gets done. Yeah, he does some work, limited amount of work, but he does some work. He starts doing some work before he did nothing because it didn't exist. The trajectory, where we will be in the future, that's the spin of AI evolution. We are in 25 now and we get 30 minutes. It's a useful burst. It's just a very small thing, like a sparkle. It's nothing to be amazed about, nothing groundbreaking. But next year, 26, he's supposed to do 3 hours. That's full feature cycle. Then when he can do 3 hours in one go, that starts becoming interesting. And that should be the case next year. Then in 27, he should be able to do, try to guess the number. What should he be able to do 1 year later? If next year he does 3 hours, what will he do 1 year later? Well, I don't think you will ever guess. I tell you, he will do 20 hours. From 3 hours in 12 months, he jumps to 20 hours, which is a multi-day task. We will get that multi-day task already in 27. That's what we're supposed to get. In 28, just 1 year more, and we should get 176 hours, which is 1 month. Then he should be able to do 1 month of work. In 28, as you can see, it increases exponentially. And in 29, he should be able to do 1,800 hours of work, which is 1 work year equivalent. In 29, he should be able to do 1 work year equivalent. So in 2030, he should be able to do 24 hours of work, which is an Einstein's week of output. Then he should be at the level of Einstein for 1 week of output in 2030. And in 2035, 5 years afterwards, it should be hundreds of billions of hours beyond human intuition. Hundreds of billions of hours we should get in 2030. Now, do I believe 100% in those numbers? I do not believe 100% in these numbers, but I believe that the trajectory is correct. I believe we will go in that direction. And will it happen that fast? Maybe it takes a little longer, but it shouldn't take that much longer. The bad thing is, as you can see, I'm already old. To me, it's very frustrating that I have 10, 100, 1,000 tasks that I would like to accomplish, and AI at the level actually does nearly nothing for me. But it's better than nothing. I'm very glad to have it. I take the fun 40 prompts every month, and I try to use it to the fullest extent possible. But it's very little. I want much more. To me, it will be interesting next year and the years afterwards if what I just told you happens. But right now, it's so little and I want to do so much. Of course, not everybody's like this, but not everybody wants to work 17 hours a day. People have different objectives during their lives. For people, the only thing that matters is pleasures, fun, entertainment, everything that numbs you down. And that gives you a relief during a short period of time. It tricks your dopamine. You think you're happy because you tell yourself it's not so bad. I can watch movies all day long, or I can watch TikTok or whatever. But it never gives you any fulfillment. And it messes up your brain. You should be doing much more interesting stuff with your life. And I have so much that I want to do, and I can do so little. If I had the money, I would have 20 people working for me and doing the different stuff I want them to do, just so I can produce more and do more stuff, more research, more work, and so on. But I don't even have the money for one guy. I cannot have a worker who is working for me an entire year and spend him 50 or probably 100K. If he knows anything, he wants at least 100K a year. I cannot send that to him. That's not possible. Just he does some stuff for me. But in the future, I won't have to. AI will do most of it. Not all of it, but most of it. And that's the thing, my friends. Sometimes we debate philosophical standpoint. And she tells me, after talking to me for hours or days, she tells me I have enough talking to an AI. Well, you can use an AI too. And you must realize the AI doesn't know what to answer. You have to tell him what to answer. He makes it easier for certain stuff you don't want to write yourself because it's not important. You will not do the entire draft of the writing, but you will just tell him what to write and correct the stuff he doesn't do the most optimal. He's like a secretary, but you have to tell the secretary what to do. The secretary will give you no output. She doesn't know what to answer, but you tell her what to do. And an AI is the same. Yes, you can complain, you can say it's hard to argue with an AI. You're not arguing with AI. I tell him what to do. I never care about his answers. It will assist me. When I write boring emails and so on, he writes all the stuff, but I tell him what to put in that email. I talk to my secretary and I tell her what to write. And then I look at what she's written and I tell her what she has to reformulate and so on. Just complaining all day long. You have to think about your life. And if you see that I can produce much more because I can be assisted, well, you can also. There's no point in complaining about that if you want. Why it matters. Why it matters what we are talked about. The evolution of how much more work it will do in the future. Cognition becomes abundant. Intellectual task. The thing that all the intellectuals, which are just parasites, they're just mouthpieces for the government. They're the kind of people who don't want to work, who don't want to make any money in the markets, who don't want to do any real work, but they still want to be on the payroll of the government and make a lot of money because they consider that they have the nice diplomas, that they know very well what Keynes said, and they know exactly how to answer a question, and they know exactly what to say, know exactly the kind of propaganda the state wants them to put out. They don't want to look in the street and say, well, a businessman, a shop owner, or anyone else makes so much money. They create their socialism. They create their lefty, their wokeness. And they make sure that the government takes care very well of them. And in exchange, they put out statist propaganda all day long. They're intellectual lazy and intellectual dishonest. But cognition, cognitive work, that's what they do and they are so proud of, and they think they're so superior than any other person on earth because they got the shiny, nice diploma, while everybody else would like to have that diploma but didn't get it. Even though the diploma is worthless and they never do anything good with it. Not for me, not for anybody on earth. But they still are on the bankroll and the state still pays a lot of money for them. But cognitive work will be abundant. Ideas outpace our ability to test them. They will be so abundant. You can create so much stuff, you can think about so much stuff that it will outspace our ability to test them. You can come up with so much theories. You can come up with much new groundbreaking discoveries that you will not have the time to test them. Cognitive intellectual work will become extremely cheap. They talk about the bottleneck, an obstacle. The bottleneck moves to the physical world, labs, factories, trials, regulations. It will be difficult to do all the stuff that we can do because it will be so abundant in the future. Minutes to lifetime collapse. That's the process. You read the literature, you put out a plan, you code it, you simulate it, you draft a paper, and within a single run, what before took months, years of academic work, you will be able to do it in a single run. It will be just one prompt and you get the output. 15 minutes later, a couple of hours later, and it will be much faster. Intellectual work will be so cheap in the future. That's why all those guys on university with their smart diploma so happy and thinking that tomorrow they will have a rosy life. Nice income, a couple of $100K a year, nice house, nice car, nice wife, nice family. All the stuff, nice boat, a nice house for the vacation, and all the stuff they like and they deserve because they got the nice shiny degree. You failed, but they did get it. And that's why they deserve everything. You deserve nothing, but they deserve everything. Those parasites you see all day long teach you nothing, nothing worthwhile, nothing you can make 5 cents with it or 5 euros, nothing, zero, nada. But they are there all day long explaining why they are so great, so beautiful and so intellectual, valuable for society. It's all crap. They have not produced anything. Zero, nada. There was Keynes, which is bullshit, and then there was Ludwig von Mises, which is a little better. But he is still intellectual dishonest, since he will never go to the normal conclusion. He only criticizes, but he will never accept that just criticizing and complaining about the state is not enough. that you have to go farther. He will never be honest enough to go the last step. But those people are very proud of themselves, or they have an immense ego. They know everything. Even though they know nothing, they pretend knowing everything. But tomorrow, they will be totally obsolete. Nobody would ever talk to them because they know nothing. They know very little today, and tomorrow they will be totally obsolete. One prompt, you get 10 times, a billion times a better answer that they could ever produce in their entire life. Cognitive labor will be abundant. And once that's really abundant, everything changes in society. You can do a lot. I can produce 10 times, 1,000 times, maybe a million times more videos for you than I do right now. And there's so much stuff that interests me. The thing is, what can I keep up? How much different ideas can I put in my brain? I will create them to infinity and beyond. But how much can I handle? When do I reach a cognitive overload? When is it too much he puts out and I just cannot follow anymore? It's just too much for a human being. But now it's not that case. Now I want to do 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times more, and I can't because the tools don't allow me. But tomorrow it will be the opposite. The tools will do much more than I can actually comprehend or keep up with. That's the difference we are facing tomorrow. It's absolute huge. If it happens, it's absolute huge. And there's a high probability that it will happen. Because it is exponential growth. And everybody who tells you it is not the case, they are wrong. All the predictions they made until now, they are wrong. It proved correct until now. And I believe it will be the same in the future. The trend hasn't stopped. And there's nothing that can stop it. If all the nuclear bombs explode on Earth and humanity disappears, then the technological progress will stop. But until it's the end of time for humanity, nothing will stop it. And that's the only thing that matters from now on to your government. Because they want to be the ruler of the earth tomorrow. They want to be the master of the earth. And they care about nothing else than winning the AI war. The only thing they care about from now on is winning the AI war. Because it will give them an immense amount of power, limitless power. And they will use that power against you. That's the issue. That's what humanity must wake up to. You think that I'm crazy? We'll see. Let's talk about it again in 5 years. And let's see how much then my agent does for me. If I don't die before that happens, I will be using it. I just show you the scenery behind me. I think it's quite nice and you can take a look at it, isn't it? There are less people now because it's still early in the morning, but I expect it to be very crowded this afternoon. You can take a look behind me. Yeah, I think it's quite nice. This part is until September. It's cut off. You can go there, but you have to pay an entrance and you get the rest for free, but there's not much left. We go from the idea to the draft paper, from the literature to the plan, to the code, to the simulation, to the draft paper in a very short period of time. And we will do what they do in universities in 6 months or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. We'll do it in one draft with one single prompt. Cognitive labor will be very abundant in the future. Now they put some caveats in them and let's talk about them and then refute them. The caveats, they say the physical world is messier. And yes, that's correct. The progress that will happen with software will be much faster than what will happen with biology or in the physical world. It's correct. It will take longer for biology to evolve, for you to get an ever-extending lifespan and so on. That kind of stuff will take longer. It's not even sure that it will happen. I believe in exponential growth with code. I believe in exponential growth with technology. But I do not believe in exponential growth with biology for now. Now, once I see that it happens, I will change my mind. But until now, it did not happen. I don't believe in it. There's still a lot of people. Code passes a test instantly. They say a drug trial needs months. It's not just that it needs months. It's also that to really find out what happens to people if they get exposure to it over an extended period of time, well, you need an extended period of time. You do not know what it really does to people until they have taken it over decades. And then you can say it's safe. We use it for the last 50 years and nothing bad happens with it. But most drugs don't fall into that bucket anyways. You cannot say we have tested the last 50 years and nothing bad happens. They say we have tested it and there are a lot of side effects. That's the case for most drugs. What really improves autonomy is just a smarter model, but dependable behavior using tools correctly, noticing errors, and recovering without human rescue. We want them to do it with as little human intervention as possible. That's what will improve the system. We are quite close. If the curve holds, throughput in the real world, thought will be so abundant. The thing is to test it and to implement it in the real world. There's so much things we can do and only so much we can actually put into practice. That will be the future. In practice, the value shifts to faster prototype and approvals, manufacturing and deployment. I still think that the approval, manufacturing, deployment speed will also increase. That's my stance on real-world speed. AI compresses physical timelines too. It's not just the stuff in software. It's not just code and technological progress, but also it will compress physical timelines, better designs, fewer defects, faster supply chain routing. Time from design to production shrinks. Automated CAD, computer-aided design, simulation, and factory programming cuts weeks to days. I also think that before what took weeks or months to do in a factory will only take days in the future. Everything will be much faster, up to a certain extent in the physical world, because you have to adapt the machines, you have to change the robots and so on, and that takes some time. But the design of the robot and the improvement will be extremely fast. The obstacle is real, but it gets lighter each cycle as more steps are automated. We keep automating it and we keep making it faster, even in the real world. Of course, the intellectual stuff will be the first to be instant, but the real world will adapt to it up to a certain degree, and we always can improve that and it will always get faster. Now that I've talked about automation, we can jump into my expertise as a trader and we can talk about the segment B that I had, since we just talked about my first segment, which was automation. My second segment is Willy Woo, pivot, scars, warnings. That's the second article that I'm gonna talk about. His pivot, his scars, and warnings. My warnings or his warnings, we'll talk about both. If I remember correctly, we talk about both. Willy Woo, on-chain pioneer. He's famous because they think he's an on-chain pioneer. And he did something on-chain, and we will talk about that. But he sold most of his Bitcoin in 2025. This year, he sold most of his Bitcoin. And I will expose to him his arguments, and then I will refute them. And we'll come back to something more realistic and more close to reality. But here's what we know, and then I'll tell you also his arguments. Backstory in 3 beats. I'll give you the backstory with 3 points. He helped investors see the plumbing. Metrics like NVT, network value to transaction, and supply shock turned raw blockchain flows into simple signals. How much value is moving, how scarce liquid supply is. He created some on-chain metrics. But since we talk about both of them, which are the NVT and the supply shock, you can take a look at them, but I wouldn't recommend them for trading. Those are not tools you really use for trading. It's really impressive to say I have a new indicator, but I would never use that for trading. You can take a look at it. It might tell you a story, but I would never use it for trading. It is not reactive enough to the market. I cannot take any position, enter or exit any position on those indicators. They're much too vague to actually use for day trading or even investing. You can take a look at it. If you get something useful out of it, if they talk to you, if they make sense to you, great, use them to the extent you want. But they are not part of my arsenal. And I use most indicators. I use more than, I don't know how much, maybe 200-300. And I've researched hundreds of thousands of indicators. But none of them, not NVT or supply shock, are part of my arsenal. I looked at them a couple of times, but I cannot use them. They're too vague, too slow to adapt, too lagging, tell you something way too much in advance. And you will lose all your money before whatever they predict happens. For me, it's impossible to integrate them into my trading, but that's my style. Your style might be different. It's not a groundbreaking thing It doesn't make it easy to make money in the markets. And if he believed that, well, then it's normal that what happened to him happened to him. He built research and distribution, long-form newsletters for deep dives, plus wobble charts for active on-chain visuals. His takes traveled fast. He has a newsletter, it has a wide audience, and he delivers his analysis to people who pay him money for that. That's all great. If you want to read his analysis, that's all great. Go for it. It's interesting. He's entertaining and you might learn something with it. The scare or the scar. Actually, it's both of them, but I have written the scar. 2020 collapse. What happened? In 2020, a collapse arrived. Adaptive capital shut during the March 2020 crash after a violent plunge. A BitMEX outage during peak stress blocked orders, and cascaded liquidations. If liquidations happen, I think that your stop loss also would have happened. I don't think you can get liquidated if the stop loss doesn't work. If you get liquidated, it's just because you didn't have a stop loss in. I don't think the stop loss stopped. It's just an outage. For a couple of minutes, it didn't work anymore. The fund flooded. The post-mortem framed it as systemic stress rather than fraud. Now, fraud means nothing. Fraud is a legal term. You can go bankrupt with your hedge fund and have done nothing illegal. Most people lose money. 98% of traders lose money. That doesn't mean they did anything illegal. That just means they are bad traders. They are part of the crowd, the 98% of people who lose money. It has nothing to do with legality. Legality is a different concept. That's people arguing about details of a contract, about the paper you have signed. And these titles can be in your favor or against you, depending on if your legal team did their work correctly or if they made a mistake. But if it's not outright fraud, now what would be outright fraud? Outright fraud would be if he says, I'm investing in Bitcoin, I'm trading Bitcoin, and instead of that, he buys coffee. Or instead of that, he spends all the money on real estate or private jets. If he did that, that would be outright fraud. But just losing money in the markets, well, that's a normal outcome for most traders. Even institutional traders, since they lose, in 98% of the time, they lose money. Let's talk about my take about the subject as a trader through my lens and my experience. One exchange is never enough. Size demands 2 or 3 trading platforms, exchanges, live at all time. Even if one stops trading for 20 minutes, well, that is still nothing. If it stops trading for 20 minutes or 45 minutes, that's what they talked about, that's nothing. I was trading the same time. I would never have an issue about stopping trading 25 or 45 minutes. Anyways, you have to sleep normally 7-8 hours every night. Yeah, sometimes I do not sleep, but then I try to catch up the sleep during the day. And even if I have biphasal sleep, which means I only sleep through 2-3 hours or 4 hours, and then I wake up. But then also I sleep again for 2 or 3 hours. It's total bullshit that you think everything went bad just because trading stopped or you couldn't do exactly what you do doing 30 minutes or 20 minutes. That's like spilling coffee on you and having to go to the bathroom. It's nothing, 30 minutes. That's not an excuse. And also you should never trust one centralized entity. And you should never take leverage positions with your entire capital. You can only do it with a small amount of your capital. You can never do it with your entire capital because it's exposing you to too much risk. And you must understand that a lot of time there are losses. It's only on the long run that you make money. All that is crap. All the things he says to excuse himself is just made of crap. They don't hold true. The issues he's complaining about is not an issue. And just using one centralized exchange is madness. You would not do that with the entire money under management. You would never do that. And if you did that, well, then you made a mistake. That's a clear mistake you can point out without any doubt. Risk setup must survive outage. Pre-placed exit, size discipline, and cross-venue hedges. Cross-platform cross-exchange hedges. Outage blocked exit. He wants to make you believe that the outage blocks his exit, and he couldn't exit because of the outage. It's bullshit. It's an excuse. The real mistake is being exposed when you shouldn't be. The outage is nothing. That's a very small period of time. When the outage happens, he should not even have been in the position. He should have exited a long time before that, the position. If he could have traded during that period of time, he probably would have lost even more. If it's crashing that hard, late exit only deepens losses. The right trade is being flat or already short earlier. He should have seen the early warnings and exited. If he did not, well, then it's too late anyways. It's not the 25 minutes or 45 minutes he's complaining about that would have changed anything. It's never like this the case, never. And not during the period where he took his losses. I was in the market as well, and I went through the same crash. And the same thing didn't happen to me. My position didn't get liquidated. I didn't have to stop trading. He should have been out of the position flat or already short. And if he didn't do that, well, he made a mistake. His analysis was wrong and he couldn't flip it when he should have. And that's normal if you use the kind of indicators we have mentioned, NVT or supply shock. They're not reactive enough. They're nice to look at, they're funny. They can teach you something about blockchain, data, and so on. But they're too slow. You will end up in exactly that kind of position if you use them. There's a reason why I don't use them. I would use them if they would improve my trading. Don't forget, I keep on doing research. I keep on searching new indicators. I keep up changing the parameters. I keep on doing anything I can to improve my trading non-stop. And I probably will do that until my death. I know exactly what I'm talking about. That's my job. Now we talk about the pivot. From the period 2022 to 2025, he moved from heavy BTC exposure to backing infrastructure startups, arguing startups can 100 to 1000x while Bitcoin might only 50x. He's arguing that infrastructure on Bitcoin is much more interesting than actually Bitcoin exposure, because he thinks that 50x is not enough and he needs a 1000x. And he thinks that infrastructure will give him that 1000x. As I told you, he thinks that infrastructure will give him 1000x and that Bitcoin exposure will only give him 50x. So he is more interested in infrastructure than in Bitcoin right now. My critique of that pivot is the following. Disciplined compounding beats a lottery ticket. I think you're much better up having a disciplined approach and compounding your gains than trying to win a lottery ticket. Steady doubles on real capital outpace rare 1000x gambles that often end in ruins. If you steadily double your capital, that will make you much more money than if you're chasing a 1000x lottery ticket. That most of the time never will happen. It happens from time to time, but probably you're not in that position. You took a lot of other positions and they all turn out ugly. And the one that makes the 1000x, this one you're not in. And it's very rare to find, and it's not even sure that it happens. If you can double sizable capital every couple of years, that's elite performance. No need to hunt moonshots. If you want to make moonshots, that's nice to talk about, especially if you're a celebrity and everybody thinks you're so smart and listens to you all day long. That's nice talk, but it doesn't happen. Most of the time, it doesn't happen. Calling 50x not enough signals risk hunger, not prudence. And remember, he wasn't very prudent at the beginning. That's what put him in that difficult situation. That's why he lost a lot of capital with his hedge fund. Now I'll talk about the warnings about that. He's also putting out some warnings, and he's talking about nation state rug pulls via ETFs, custody, and concentration. That's true. There's capital accumulation, and that capital can be seized very easily by simply sending a letter. That's very bad. And it's true that he should be warning about that. But my stance is you have to be intellectually honest. If you believe that, there are certain things you won't do. You have to be intellectually honest. My stance is self-custody, first principles. Centralized piles invite targets. Cold storage is the antidote. Bitcoin was invented for that. You can do cold storage. Saying ETFs are risky while rotating into most centralized ventures is a contradiction. You cannot once expose ETFs as bad and then still want to go in the most centralized stuff imaginable because you think it will outperform Bitcoin and you will get a 1000x with it. Instead, only a mega 50x. Even with gold, you can keep on doubling the amount. With good trading, you can keep making money. The asset itself doesn't have to go to infinity while you trade it to make money on it. That's why you use leverage. Saying ETFs are risky while rotating into most centralized venture is a contradiction. And that's what he does. Hidden leverage, corporation debt plus BTC treasuries, forced fire sales. He talks about hidden leverage and he thinks that leverage is very dangerous in the market. My stance is that trading is a tool. In trained hands, it's managed, not feared. I'm not scared about trading. I don't take more exposure than I should. I'm a trader. I take a lot of positions and I never know if one of my positions will be a winning position or a losing position. The only thing I know that if I play the game long enough, I will make more money than I lose. If I can play it long enough. If a black swan doesn't put me out or for one reason I cannot do my job anymore. But if I can keep doing what I do, I will, on the long run, end up ahead. But on every single position, I don't know if I make money. In every single week, I don't know if I make money. In any single month, I don't know if I make money. Now, I know that there are months and years where I perform better than in others, but I never know the outcome of any single trade, of any single week, or of any single month. I just know if I play the game long enough, I will end up on top. I will make more than I lose. Leverage is just a tool, and there's nothing to be scared about if you follow the rules. If you know something about risk management, there's nothing to be scared about. Volatility is the asset's heartbeat. Forced sellers create opportunities. Skilled operator plan to buy the panic and sell the euphoria. As a skilled player, you want that. You want the panic and you want the euphoria because you will use one to buy and the other one to sell because you want to realize the gains and to sell because you want to take a short position. But euphoria and panic is very good. There's nothing to complain about if you are a trader. It scares some people off. It will scare your grandma off or your grandpa. It will scare inexperienced players out of the market. But yourself as a trader, you shouldn't be scared about that. That should not be an issue for you. Now, he's talking about whales, and I'll give you my position on that. It's a slogan. It's hype. When you talk about we will build the whales without being a coder or having a coding shop or a coding team, it's just hype. Building the whales, it's a slogan. It's hardcore engineering or very capital-intensive operations. Without deep coding shops or specialized teams, it's hype. Bitcoin plumbing is code maintaining by elite code developers. It's elite code developers that make the Bitcoin whales. It's not a trader, and the smartest minds are already working on that. Those with the most experienced. Analysts add value by analysis and liquidity, not by pretending to be infrastructure builders overnight. You do not become a coder or an infrastructure builder overnight. And unless you're extremely fortunate and you can donate to them 5 million, 50 million, or 100 million, then you won't even participate in the game. Analysts add value by analysis and liquidity. When you take a position or exit a position, you add more liquidity. That makes it better for everybody because everybody gets a better price and it's easier to enter and exit the market. Not by pretending to be infrastructure builders overnight. You do not become an infrastructure builder overnight. Unless you have the money for it, you cannot participate in that game. And then the only thing you can do is donate money to them. And that's only possible if you're a billionaire. And for you, it's nothing to make a little donation of a couple of 100 millions to somebody. Until then, you cannot play that kind of games. Counterpoint to the feel-good slogan. We're going to talk about the feel-good slogan. From asset to ecosystem, from price to plumbing, that's the adult move. The slogan he's using, from asset to ecosystem, from price to plumbing, that's the adult move. I will propose you a counterpoint to that. My rebuttal is the following. Adding your edge to chase nebulous infrastructures is not maturity. It's wishful reinvention, wishful thinking. As an analyst, your duty is edge, risk, and execution. Risk management and execution. Provide liquidity, extract returns. As a trader, as an analyst, you are not a cosplay protocol engineer. And you can forget about that. My conclusion on adaptive capital, the hedge fund Willy Woo worked in, my conclusion on adaptive capital, which wasn't that adaptive, which is quite funny, because if it would have been so adaptive, they wouldn't have lost so much money. My conclusion on adaptive capital and the 2025 pivot. Let's talk a little more about, give some more additions. Adaptive capital losses were catastrophic. Principals likely took hits alongside clients, creating a deep personal hole. It's not just client money that he lost. There's a very high chance that he lost a lot of his own capital and the capital of the manager of the hedge funds. Because as far as I know, they were all heavily invested in it and they all panicked and they all gave up. It created a deep personal hole for them. Now he wants to get whole again. He wants to make back all his money and end up on top, as everybody else would like to do in such a situation. That's a human behavior. By comparison, a potential 50x in Bitcoin feels insufficient because the hole is so big. Now making 50x in Bitcoin is just sufficient. You will never get back all the money you lost with it. Risk appetite appears higher today than pre-2020. Pattern repetition rather than de-risking. He doesn't want to de-risk. He just wants to play the same patterns again and hope that this time he gets lucky. Risk management, not outage. Overexposure, single platform dependence, high leverage, and missing pre-planned exits. If he had any exits, maybe he didn't even use any exit. Maybe he had no exit plan to begin with. The 25-40 minutes outage excuse is nothing. That doesn't hold. You slip much more than that. It's bullshit. You have to work on your survivability. And you should never end up in such a position. Celebrity status can found appearance and endorsement, but it does not repair a found ceased breakdown. He's a celebrity, and because of that, it's not so bad for him. He will never starve in the streets because he's a celebrity. A lot of people will want him to endorse their product, and it will allow him to maintain appearances, but it does not repair a fund-sized breakdown. We'll talk about that more at the ending. Higher variance with negative expectancy, unlikely to recover the prior hole. So not just is it unlikely that he will recover with that higher variance, and it's a negative expectancy. Not just his higher variance, but the expectancy at the start is already negative. It's unlikely to recover the prior hole. Not just is it unlikely that you will ever with that recover the prior hole, but he probably will just dig a bigger hole. Now let's talk about his psychological profile. As an analyst or as a poker player, I create psychological profiles of people. Just as I do on a poker table. I try to see how they act and I try to exploit their way of thinking and of playing the game. Let's create a psychological profile of Willy Woo. He has a burn trauma and that creates in him a get-even drive. After a catastrophic drawdown, the mind fixates on getting out of the hole. He wants to be made whole again. He wants to get the money back he lost. Pushing strategy towards oversized, fast payback bets. He will take oversized, fast payback bets. He also has identity pressure. Public bragging as a Bitcoin sage creates pride and audience expectations. Status restoration can override prudence. He wants to restore his status, his legacy, the way people talk about him and what he can contribute to the world. He wants to restore his image, its public relationship that he tries to improve. He wants to prove to everybody that even if he had that catastrophic loss, he'll make it all back again. And for that, Bitcoin is not good enough anymore. He needs his 1000x. Cost and escalation. Past losses become a reason to risk more. Seeking a miracle 1000x instead of steady compounding. the past losses become a reason to risk more for him, which means that he didn't learn anything from what happened and that he didn't arrive to the right conclusion. He is in that position in the first place because he took too much risk. And now he's looking for even more risk, a narrative protection. He wants to protect his narrative. He's blaming something else, an outage, which allows him to preserve his self-image while underrating risk management errors. If you come up with false excuses, you won't work on risk and risk management, and you will never admit your management errors, what you should. Only if you admit them, you can stop making them. There's a risk hemostasis. After big losses, the internal risk thermometer resets higher, normalizing dangerous exposure. A 15x outcome feels small only because the whole is enormous, distorts judgment about what is already exceptional. 50x is already exceptional. But if your judgment has been distorted because of the immense amount of money you have lost, then it feels small. There's a time inconsistency. Prefers quick salvation over a slow rebuild, even when the slow path has higher long-run expectancy. He wants to do something astonishing, and it must be very fast, because he lost a lot of money very fast, in a couple of days, in a couple of hours. And now he wants to make it back just as fast. He has something that is called a celebrity cushion. Continuous high variance behavior. A celebrity cushion allows him to make a media income. So he just has to put out a talk show or put out a video, and it will be watched by hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions of people, and it will make him a nice income because he has a celebrity status. And that allows him mass expectancy problems. He keeps looking for too much risk and wanting high variance behavior, making a lot of money, but also losing a lot of money. So the Stoic counter move is to irrecoverable losses. It is out of discipline to making the right choices over and over again, that on the long run, the situation will improve, but not because of a lottery ticket that gives you 1000x. I'll give you my mathematical conclusion, the irrecoverable whole. We're going to talk about the irrecoverable whole, my mathematical conclusion. Drawdowns, asymmetry. A loss of a certain amount requires again a certain amount to break even. I'll give you a couple of examples you understand. If you get a 50% loss, you need a 100% gain to be made back whole, to be at break even again. So you have a 50% loss, you need a 100% gain. If you have a 90% loss, you need a 900% gain. If you have a 99% loss, you need a 9,900% gain. Scale loss is permanent. If you fall from 500 millions to zero, then go 5K to 5 millions, the lifetime profit and loss still reads minus 995 millions. Mathematically, when you lose too much, you'll never make it back. Because if you go from 500 millions to zero, and then you manage to get 5K, and with the 5K, you make it back to 5 millions. 5 million, it's not bad, especially if you made it with 5K. But the lifetime profit and loss still reads minus 995 millions. That's very bad when you end up at the end of your life with a profit of loss that is really bad in the red. 995 millions. Compounding works when you are handling smaller base and you did not have a massive loss. But once you face massive extended losses, then compounding won't save you anymore. That's why you stop playing the normal game. And Bitcoin is not good enough anymore. And thinking about, I could make a 50x, which is extraordinary, but it's not good enough because you lost much that it won't do it for you. After a blow up, raising outside money is far harder. He managed once to raise a lot of outside money, but now that he did blow up, well, people will be much more skeptical in the future to invest any money in him. It reduces capital, higher scrutiny. He will face higher scrutiny, and that will lower the path to prior highs. He wants to go back. He wants to be back at the head of his hedge fund and have all that money under management. But it's over. and it will never come back because he will have reduced capital and higher scrutiny. People will be much more skeptical in the future to invest. The variance trap. Chasing 1000x increases outcome variance. Expected value often shrinks because the model outcome is failure. The model outcome, in most of the cases when you chase 1000x, is failure. It's a total loss, or it's a waste of time. You won't make any money in the best case scenario. That's not the normal outcome. The normal outcome is to use everything because it's very risky. He will not face a miracle payday that he's chasing, and that can make him whole again. You must know he goes against everything Bitcoin ever taught. Bitcoin is against centralization. It tells you to do self-custody. It does not pushes you into centralized entities. And it does not matter what they have on their bank account. If it's Bitcoin, gold, or anything else, you should not be in something centralized. You should not give up your rights to your capital, to be able to do with your capital what you want when you want. And you should not get into positions that are dangerous and centralized and can be seized on a whim with a simple letter of the government. Even strong future returns may never restore the original high. Mathematically, most paths remain net negative. Let's talk about the fund size. Contemporary reports on adaptive capital's closure don't disclose reliable asset under management. Total capital one for clients and principal. By counts, most hedge funds manage well under 250 millions. Most hedge funds have less than 250 millions in them, while by assets, minority of 1 billion giants hold the bulk. But a hedge fund, it can have 1 billion in it. How much did he have? Did he have 250 millions? Did he have 500 millions? I don't know. But I think it's in the hundreds of millions. In that context, 500 millions would be mid to large. Low figure would be under 250 millions. And principals likely took hits alongside clients. Means that the fund owner and managers probably lost their own invested capital too, not just client money. I told you all that to give you an idea what happens to most traders. I have nothing against Willy Woo. Would I ever give him my money to manage it? Never. I trust myself. I'm interested in what I do. I would not ask anybody else to manage my money. But he's entertaining. It's nice to listen to. I will not tell you not to listen to him. But you must know that there's a huge ego involved. He is a celebrity and he wants to put out a nice face, a nice costume. He wants to play his role and keep pretending that he's such an awesome trader, analyst, and that his stuff is revolutionary, which it never was. His on-chain data isn't that revolutionary, and it's a bad idea to use it for trading. But he's entertaining to listen to. You can listen to his interventions, to his podcasts, and so on. He's nice to listen to. It's always interesting to hear what he comes up with. But a lot is bullshit. Telling you that he wants to sell the shovels in a gold rush is bullshit. It's nonsense. As a trader, you trade. As a trader, you learn risk management. As a trader, you make smart decisions every day. The best decision you can. And on the long run, you end up ahead. On the long run, you make more money than you lose. You provide liquidity to the market, but you do not do anything infrastructure and you do not sell shovels. All that is crap. All that is bullshit. It's his way of thinking. He will make a lottery ticket. It will only make the hole bigger. For him, it's not that bad. He will never be poor. He just jumps on a talk show and makes money. He just publishes a video, monetizes it, and has 10K in his bank account. He will never be poor, but he will never come back to past glory. It is over. Once you run a hedge fund in the ground, a hedge fund that could have had 250 millions or 500 millions invested in. He was famous. Everybody knows him. Everybody listens to him. Once you run that in the ground and the losses are so bad and you burned yourself so badly that you don't want to do it anymore, that you give up, it's over. You never make it back. I was trading at the same time as he did and I'm not in the same position. Don't get me wrong. My ego is not huge. I think I will get through very hard periods of time that will be extended. over 6 months, over 2 years, maybe even longer. I will be close to break even, then I will lose again money, then maybe I get back close to break and lose again money. And that can be over a long period of time. Maybe I need, after certain losses, 1, 2, or 3 years just to get back to break even. But I never think I will be in his position. The losses will never be so bad, as I told you, that from 500 millions I go to 0. And then maybe I make it back to 5 millions. Because if that happens, you're in a very bad position. Because whatever you do, your profit and loss will always be negative. Once you lose so much, your profit and loss is always, until the end of your life, negative. And you have to live with the fact that you didn't make any money, that you just, like everybody else, lost money. I don't have an extreme ego. I want to get better. I want to make more money, but I don't want to take a risk that put me in a difficult situation where suddenly I cannot trade anymore. Or I give up on trading and I start saying nonsense like I'm going to do infrastructure or sell shovels. Are you mad? What's that crap? You're a trader. You look at the markets all day long. You take position, you enter position, you close position, etc. I never know, as I tell you, when I take a position if it will be profitable or not. I enter it. There are 3 outcomes that happen. Once I make money, once I end up break even, and once I lose money. I never know when I take a position which one it is. I just play it over and over and over again. And I know that if I can play the game long enough, if I'm in the market long enough, I'll end up on top. But I have to be prudent. I can never take the kind of risk he did. If I do that, well, then my profit and loss over my lifetime will be negative. And I will have to tell myself that working did not make me any money. I just lost more money than I ever made. And that's not something you should ever expose yourself to. You should always be prudent. You can take more risk, but it must be your strategy to take more risk. And you must be able to live with more risk. What do I mean with more risk? If I have a client who comes to me and wants me to take huge amount of risk, and he says, here, I give you 50K. If you lose that 50K, well, too bad. It doesn't matter. I just give you 50K again. Now tell him, how many times can you do that? He says 10 times, 100 times, 1,000,000 times. I'm wealthy enough, and then I can do it for a very long period of time. Yes, then I can be extremely risky with that 50K. And sometimes I turn that 50K into 5 millions or into 50 millions. But a lot of time I would also lose that 50K. Is that the best strategy? No. But if that's the strategy the client wishes, well, you can provide it to him. But it is then the strategy you use. And you must face the consequences. That when you take extreme risk, often you lose the entire capital. And you should not do it. You should always trade the amount that you can sleep without having any nightmares. That you can sleep without feeling any stress, without it creating any psychological issues for you. When the amount you manage are too high, well, then you have to step back to smaller amounts that you can manage easier. And you must be extremely careful to not end up in the same position as Willy Woo. Not that your lifetime profit and loss will always be negative, whatever happens. And hoping that you get a moonshot or 1000x, a lottery ticket that will make you whole again, that will allow you to come back and be in the green again. That's a very bad situation to be in. Thanks for listening. I hope you found it interesting, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. And don't forget to subscribe and like.